Okay, we're going to get started. We're going to get started. All right, we have a packed house today. The city council chambers were taken this morning, so we're all in here, and it's nice to see everybody. Today is Tuesday, February 17th, and this is meeting number 22 of the Environment and Climate Change Committee. On behalf of Ottawa City Council, I wish to acknowledge that Ottawa is built on unceded, unsurrendered Anishinaabe Algonquin territory. The City of Ottawa honors the peoples and land of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation and honors all First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people and their valuable past and present contributions to this land. With that, I'll ask the committee coordinator to do a roll call of all members.
Councillor Luloff.
Good morning.
Councillor Hill.
Present.
Councillor Curry.
Here.
Councillor Kavanaugh.
Present.
Councillor Johnson.
Easy.
Councillor Devine.
Here.
Councillor Tierney.
Present.
Councillor King.
Here.
Councillor Brown.
Here.
Councillor Lowe.
Here.
Vice Chair Carr.
Present.
Chair Menard.
Here.
Your quorum, Chair.
Thank you very much. And a huge welcome to all of the staff joining us today for the Environmental Excellence Awards, which we'll get to in just a minute. Are there any declarations of interest? Okay, seeing none. Are the minutes from Monday, December 8th, meeting of the Environment and Climate Change Committee confirmed? Thank you very much. Okay, so we'll get right to the Environmental Excellence Awards. I'm just going to walk up to the podium. Okay, good morning again, everyone. Bonjour à tous et toutes. I would like to welcome all the members of the senior leadership team, our city manager, Wendy Stephenson, sponsor directors, nominators, and my fellow selection panel members, as well as counselors to our presentation this morning. Thank you for being here today to recognize the nominees for the Environmental Excellence Awards and to celebrate their tremendous work in support of the city's sustainability goals. And to our nominees, a very special welcome to all of you. Et nous souhaitons la bienvenue à toutes les personnes nommées.
To all the nominees.
You're responsible for 15 projects, initiatives, and strategies that bring more climate-focused investment to the city, implement programs to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from vehicles, facilities, and waste, protect and rebuild the urban tree canopy, reduce this community's risks of exposure to pollutants, and introduce innovative technologies in pursuit of our sustainability goals. Vous étiez véritablement en première ligne.
You are really truly on the front line on our effort to make Ottawa a clean, renewable, and resilient city, and our efforts are making a difference.
Our city manager, Wendy Stephenson, to say a few words.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chair Menard. I just have to pull the microphone down a bit here. And I want to say thank you very much to the members of the Environment and Climate Change Committee for hosting today's Environmental Excellence Awards. Thank you for being here and thank you for supporting us. Bonjour à tous.
Hello, everyone.
Join Chair Menard in extending a very warm welcome to all of our distinguished nominees this morning. Today is a very exciting one as we recognize and celebrate your exceptional leadership and your dedication to make our city greener, cleaner, healthier for generations to come. And a big congratulations to all of you on your incredible achievements this year. I'm so proud of you. I'd also like to take a moment to welcome and thank all of the nominators who are in the room this morning or listening, who took the time to recognize this exemplary work of all of you and our colleagues and highlight the positive impact that each project has had on our community. Recognition is one of the most powerful ways to show people that their work matters and really makes a difference. By taking time to celebrate these achievements, we feel pride, we strengthen connections, and we inspire everyone to keep striving for excellence. So a huge thank you to everyone who's joined us today to recognize the exceptional work of our nominees. And I can tell you, as I read through each project, I was deeply moved by the incredible collaboration that unfolded across so many departments here at the city, truly bringing to life our one city, one team spirit. And it's remarkable to see so many of you side by side, pushing boundaries, championing innovative solutions, and really helping our city adapt to the challenge of climate change. Your creativity and commitment are shaping a brighter, more resilient future for everyone who calls Ottawa home. And I'm going to say, after 3 decades with the city, I continue to be inspired and humbled by the ingenuity, the expertise, unwavering dedication that you all bring to your work every day. You all embody service excellence, and you do that in its truest form. And I could not be more proud of each one of you. So with that, I want to hand it back over to Chair Menard. You're going to announce our nominees and our winners this morning. So félicitations et merci beaucoup.
Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Wendy. Climate change impacts our health and safety, our infrastructure, our economy, and our environment. In Ottawa, we've seen extreme weather events, floods, forest fires, water shortages during droughts, heat waves, and freeze and thaw cycle problems on our roads, just to name a few. As a municipality, we have a responsibility to act by reducing energy use through conservation and efficiency, protecting our natural environment, investing in sustainability, making a sustained transition away from a dependence on fossil fuels. That's why the city has invested more than $1.1 billion in climate initiatives since 2023, including the zero-emission bus fleet and $129 million in climate resiliency projects, some of which we'll be highlighting today. We are making progress as a city. The city has reduced greenhouse gas emissions in areas under its direct operational control. At the end of 2024, organization emissions were 26% lower than in 2012. Et nous continuons d'investir. $9 million has been allocated.
We continue to invest
to strengthen resiliency, cut emissions, support the green energy transition, invest in reliable water and sewer infrastructure, sustainable waste management, and climate action to support a green and resilient Ottawa. Today is an important day. It's important to celebrate the wins and to highlight the great work that you undertake. As chair of the Environment Committee, it's energizing to understand the level of expertise, creativity, and commitment you leverage in pursuit of our strategic priority of making Ottawa a more sustainable city. And I can tell you, along with the other panel members, it was a big challenge to choose just 2 winners amongst the 15 amazing projects. We had a lot of debate and discussion. The 2 categories for nominations are internal initiatives that reduce the city's environmental footprint as an organization, and the community category for projects that reduce the overall community footprint. There are 8 nominees in the internal category this year. The nominees are Collaboration for External Climate Funding. The Infrastructure Services Stimulus Funding Team and Climate Change and Resiliency Services collaborated with city departments to secure external funding for climate-related initiatives, raising $4.5 million in new funding to address flooding, extreme heat, greenhouse gas reduction, net zero infrastructure, expansion of the urban tree canopy, and more. Manuel électronique pour l'apprentissage
And
de
then
français.
we also have the electronic manual in French that allows us to replace the French manuals and that we don't have to print them. And this was put together by the city. We are, as such, able to reduce the paper waste, reducing shipping costs and emission, solving content concerns such as lack of French.
Through an extensive and iterative design and test loop process, a modified charging system configuration for double-decker buses was achieved that will reduce vehicle breakdowns, repair times, which we really need right now, repair costs, and ultimately reduce the environmental impact of transit services. Green Fleet Strategy. The Green Fleet Strategy introduced a comprehensive evaluation matrix to assess 9 alternative fuels and technologies, including battery electric, hydrogen, and renewable diesel, to identify the most effective and cost-efficient technologies tailored to the operational needs of the city's fleet of 2,800 vehicles. Heat Pump Adoption Project. The Heat Pump Adoption Project team prioritized heat pump adoption across city facilities, delivering significant results. In 2024, prior to implementation,
12 installations were completed, but following implementation in 2025, 46 installations were completed and an additional 57 are planned for buildings in 2026. This rapid increase reflects a sensible approach to climate mitigation and adaptation and is cost effective. Integrated housing system. The primary goal of this initiative was to modernize and streamline the administration of Ottawa's centralized waiting lists for social housing. Using a custom-built cloud-based platform, the community housing team has significantly reduced paper use, transportation demands, and energy consumption associated with legacy systems and manual administrative workflows while increasing efficiency, transparency, and data across the housing system. Ottawa Sustainable Bond and Framework. The City of Ottawa's Sustainable Bond and Framework initiative aimed to fund infrastructure projects that could deliver measurable climate and community benefits, addressing the challenge of aligning long-term capital investment with sustainability goals. The initiative introduced a rigorous sustainable debenture framework, ensuring transparency, impact reporting, and alignment with global standards, allowing the city to attract ESG-focused investors while financing clean transportation, green buildings, and social services. Proactive street tree replacements. The Proactive Street Tree Replacement Program is a significant early initiative under the tree planting strategy that employs GIS and SAP systems for accurate tracking and planning to ensure the canopy cover is replenished whenever a tree is removed. Previously, it was up to adjacent homeowners to request replacement trees, and this new proactive approach prioritizes species diversity to mitigate the risks associated with monocultures and climate stressors, a strategic shift that positions the urban forest as a resilient, adaptive system. So these 8 nominations represent the highest levels of expertise, professionalism, and teamwork. I'd like to invite all of the nominees in the internal category to please stand if you are able, and I invite everyone to join me in a round of applause for their outstanding contributions. I'm also going to invite councillors up here. If you could come join me for the announcement, as well as Wendy for the photo in a moment. And I'm pleased to announce the winner of this year's Environmental Excellence Award in the internal category is the Green Fleet Strategy. Congratulations to Neil Grandy. Good job. Let's stay if you want. Stay. Congratulations to Neil. Before we move on to the next category, I just want to give an honorable mention as well, because there was, again, a lot of debate and discussion. The heat pump adoption project, which is tackling greenhouse gas emissions at city facilities, and the proactive street tree replacement project, which is working to preserve and enhance our urban tree canopy, also scored very, very high. So thank you, both teams, for your efforts. We'll now move to nominations in the community category. These 7 nominated projects work within the community to directly benefit residents. They are the Carlingwood Library Permeable Paver Parking Lot. The city's first permeable paver municipal parking lot was constructed at the Carlingwood Library. The use of permeable pavers represents a significant improvement in stormwater management practices, as they allow rainfall to drain through the surface into an underlying gravel layer where it is filtered before re-entering the groundwater system. And this approach reduces runoff volume, alleviates pressure on the storm sewer network, and decreases the transportation of pollutants into the Ottawa River. The combined sewer overflow online reporting enhancements. With climate change increasing, the frequency of severe storms, existing wastewater and stormwater infrastructure has become increasingly strained, sometimes leading to untreated wastewater discharge into waterways. After receiving a grant from the Ontario government, Infrastructure and Water Services initiated a project to upgrade its monitoring and reporting system. The development and implementation of a live interactive map increases transparency and provides residents with timely information on the location of active combined sewer overflow discharges. The next project is the former Petrie Island Landfill Environmental Risk Management Program. The former Petrie Island landfill lies within a mature, thriving forest in a floodplain, which is intersected by popular recreation trails. The challenge was to design non-intrusive risk management strategies that preserve the forest ecosystem while minimizing potential exposure of visitors to waste and contamination. The environmental remediation unit staff explored innovative strategies to balance risk reduction with ecosystem preservation, and the team chose to install interpretive signage highlighting the island's industrial history while advising visitors to remain on marked trails through the landfill area to avoid potential hazards from waste or contaminated soil in forested sections. Ottawa's tree equity analysis. A cornerstone of the tree planting strategy, the tree equity analysis has introduced a new data-driven approach to tree planting in Ottawa that will prioritize areas of the city that can most benefit from more trees. The team analyzed canopy cover data that included 7 socioeconomic and health indicators to identify neighborhood-level gaps in the urban forest. This innovative equity-based strategy leverages GIS and LiDAR-derived canopy data and demographic analysis to guide decisions. The O-Train Pathways Project. This project team designed and constructed new pathways to directly connect surrounding neighborhoods to key O-Train stations to improve access to active transportation. The team incorporated permeable surface treatments where feasible to reduce environmental impacts and improve stormwater infiltration, and selected durable, low-maintenance materials that extend life cycle performance and reduce long-term resource consumption. Plant Your Place. PYP. The new private land tree planting program, Plant Your Place, was launched in 2025 as an early action of the tree planting strategy. The program provides a unique online experience, including a storefront where residents can shop for their tree. Extensive species descriptions, photos, and tree selection information allows the resident to make an informed decision. The goal of the program is to increase tree planting while enhancing public education awareness among residents on urban forest stewardship. Lastly, the salt controllers on sidewalk machines. Ottawa relies heavily on rolled salt to maintain safe winter conditions, but excess use contributes to chloride contamination in soils, waterways, and vegetation. Unlike the larger fleet, sidewalk plows had no technology to control application, despite maintaining more than 2,400 kilometers of sidewalks, pathways, and winter cycling routes. This initiative introduced electronic salt controllers for sidewalk equipment, enabling calibrated application rates and significantly reducing over-application and environmental impact. Before we announce this year's winner, I want to invite all the nominees in the community category to please stand if they're able, and please join me in a round of applause for their exceptional contributions to the city. Now my pleasure to announce the 2025 Environmental Excellence Award winner in the community category, and the award goes to the amazing team responsible for salt controllers on the sidewalk machines. I'll welcome up Brian Ducey, Martin Habit, Ryan LaRose, Paul Mantle, Sean Norman, Christopher Paquette, and Carrie Vernick. And I'd like to ask them to come forward, and I'll ask for a photo to take place right now. Thank you very, very much. Good job. Congratulations. Good job. I also want to give honorable mention to Plant Your Place, a community outreach program to encourage tree planting while enhancing public education and awareness. Thank you very much for that application nomination as well. Well, we've come to the end of the award presentations for today. I'd like to everyone just join me, please, for a final round of applause. So for all nominees and everyone really in the room, you're invited, just a reminder, you're invited to the Colonel By Room to pick up your individual certificates for the nomination and also enjoy a coffee reception immediately following the awards presentation. Committee will carry on. You're welcome to watch us as well, but there's, I guess, some good snacks and coffee there. So please do enjoy. On behalf of my committee colleagues, the city manager and senior leaders, let me say how much we appreciate the great work that you do. It's more important than ever that we focus on reducing our environmental footprint, and your work is crucial to our sustainability. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Okay. Oh yeah. Thanks very much, everyone, for that. I love that part of the year. It's my favorite thing because there's a lot of projects that we don't recognize are actually happening that make a huge difference for the city. And I've asked that go out to in the media as well, so that they're aware of the projects that are taking place. So we're moving right along. Our next item up is the Community Environmental Projects Grant Program Expansion. So staff will have a presentation for us, and then we'll receive delegations. Thank you.
All right, well, good morning, members of committee. Mr. Chair, thank you so much for having us this morning. Waste Services annual operating budget to make this expansion. Our climate resiliency services team, she has been the one coordinating this program for the past 6 years. She's also joined by Micah Woolhurt, who's a project manager with Solid Waste Services. And also joining us today is my colleague Rachel Jones, program manager of long-term planning with Solid Waste Services, and Shelley McDonald, director of Solid Waste Services, is also available to address any questions that committee may have.
Thank you very much, Nicole. So the Community Environmental Projects Grant Program, or CEPGEP as we commonly refer to it, provides funding to support nonprofit organizations interested in undertaking small-scale, community-based initiatives. The program funds a wide range of projects that advance environmental sustainability at the local level, and it has an annual budget of $102,000. Funding is available for various types of initiatives. Some examples are greening projects, environmental restoration, community workshops, education and awareness campaigns, as well as waste reduction initiatives. Beginning in 2026, it's proposed that the CEPGEP expand to include a dedicated waste avoidance, reduction, and reuse stream. And this is, of course, subject to council approval. This new stream would have a separate funding source. So although this grant program is modest, it is impactful, and it has enabled community-led environmental action across the city for over 30 years now, since 1995. It's a long-standing, well-regarded grant program with demand consistently exceeding available funding. The Solid Waste Master Plan, which was approved back in June of 2024, identifies grants and incentives as a tool to support waste avoidance, reduction, and reuse through community partnerships. So this proposed stream would represent an integrated expansion of SEPJEP. We're not trying to create a standalone new grant program. Next slide, please. Is there a next slide? Thank you. So groups that are eligible to receive funding under the SEPJEP include community associations and community groups, youth groups, school councils and parent associations, as well as industry and trade associations. All organizations must be based in Ottawa and they must adhere to not-for-profit principles. Past SEPJEP projects related to solid waste reduction initiatives have included examples such as food rescue programs, reuse pilots, community composting, as well as waste reduction education. Projects are typically undertaken right across Ottawa and include urban, suburban, and rural wards. So Micah will now share some additional details from a solid waste perspective. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Tara. So the Solid Waste Master Plan is in its second year of implementation, and aligning with the top of the waste hierarchy and the plan's core messaging, we are prioritizing waste avoidance, reduction, and reuse actions. Solid Waste Master Plan engagement clearly showed that there is strong resident buy-in for supporting community-based waste reduction initiatives, a result that was confirmed through a survey conducted by Solid Waste Services last summer. Offering financial assistance is one way to enable local groups to launch, expand, or continue projects that keep items out of the landfill and help the city achieve its long-term waste management goals. Waste avoidance initiatives have always been eligible under the Community Environmental Projects Grant Program, but demand was high, and only about a third of reuse or repair funding requests could be granted. By significantly increasing the available amount, more nonprofit organizations will be encouraged to apply and be able to receive a grant. This will lead to more low or no cost waste reduction and reuse opportunities for residents across Ottawa. It also supports Council's strategic priority to build a green and resilient city. Next slide, please. So what exactly are we doing and how are we doing it? As Tara said, instead of setting up a whole new funding mechanism, Solid Waste Services will contribute to a well-known grant program. This avoids duplication and administrative work while keeping things simple and convenient for applicants. The process doesn't change for community groups seeking funding. The only difference they will notice is a drop-down list on the application form, asking them to check a box indicating the type of their project, whether it's waste-related or not. Pending committee and council approval, the application period will be open from February 26th to April 10th. On the back end, Solid Waste Services will be involved in reviewing the proposals pertaining to waste reduction and reuse, and fund the new stream with up to $102,000 annually starting this year. Climate Change and Resiliency Services will stay the owner of the SEPJEP, and this is why I'm now handing it back to Tara.
So thank you, Micah. So as we have shared, what is being proposed today is not a review or a redesign of the Community Environmental Projects Grant Program as a whole. The existing program terms, eligibility, governance, and funding model would stay the same. The recommendation before committee today is focused on adding a dedicated stream targeted to waste reduction, avoidance, and reuse measures. Up to $102,000 in additional funding for that stream aligns with the Solid Waste Master Plan and the Solid Waste Long Range Financial Plan. A full review of the SEPJEP, including the program terms, eligibility, and overall funding levels, will take place in 2027. This will allow Council the opportunity to revisit broader questions, such as overall program funding levels and the program's structure. Next slide, please. So thank you so much for this opportunity to share an overview of the proposed expansion to the SEPJEP. Our team would be happy to answer any questions that committee members may have after the delegations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that presentation. We have 4 delegations on this item today. The first is William Van Geest, who's the Executive Director of Ecology Ottawa, here in person with us.
Thank you, Chair. I'm audible. Great. So we were pleased to see staff's proposal to create a new funding stream in SEPJA for community-led waste diversion projects. This is, in fact, something that we asked for in 2024 at a meeting of this very committee when you were considering the draft solid waste master plan. As you know, the SWMP's first objective is, quote, to maximize the reduction and reuse of waste. And rightly so. Waste diversion, specifically reduction and reuse, is the most important waste action we can take. It's the cheapest and it has the smallest environmental impact. Just think of the cost of landfilling, whether the collection of items and trucking them to the landfill, or the cost of expanding Trail Road, which we know about, or think of if, heaven forbid, we pursue incineration with its massive costs and the pollution it would generate. The less time items spend in the waste stream, the better. And of course, Ottawans understand this. A couple of weeks ago, the Ottawa South Eco Action Network collaborated with Eco West Enders for their second annual Lone Mitten Project, where they pair up solo abandoned mittens. Océan also does mending circles, cloth diaper trial kits, and support sock recycling and repurposing, pumpkin collection after Halloween, and so on. Other community groups have helped restaurants eliminate food waste and held repair cafes and clothing swaps. Point being, the opportunities are endless, and Ottawans are limited only by time and, relevantly, funds. I should also add that these initiatives help City Council meet your commitments, not only on waste diversion, but also on emissions reductions. As you know, the GHG inventory released last fall showed that community emissions from waste rose 5.5% from last check in 21, and that waste generates a whopping 31% of our corporate emissions, like those from Trail Road. So council needs communities' help. But the large majority of community waste diversion initiatives happen on a volunteer basis. What would be possible in the community if this work was funded? So when we brought our request for community waste diversion funding to council in 2024, we and the almost 250 people who signed our petition asked specifically for this to be multi-year funding, for it to be 1.5 million over that time, to cover operational costs, specifically staffing, rent, and insurance. Indeed, operations are often the majority of costs, particularly for larger community organizations who could shoulder a larger share of waste diversion if they received supported funding. And if you're cautious about allowing operational costs, just pilot it this year. As you heard a moment ago, staff plan to review the entire SEPJEP program next year, and we can reassess then. So please do vote to support the community's waste diversion efforts, but make funding multi-year, increase it, and above all, cover all costs incurred. It would be the best waste dollars council has spent, and it'll build community in the process. A final note, we were surprised to see that this waste diversion fund was essentially the only item of substantive action, despite the wonderful litany of awards earlier on today's agenda, particularly given that January's meeting of this committee was canceled and there's no March meeting. And of course, in a few short months, election season begins and city business dries up until mid-November at the earliest. Meanwhile, we're in a climate emergency. Our GHG emissions keep rising, contrary to our commitments, and we know the next extreme weather is just around the corner. Shouldn't we be taking a bit more action here? Thank you.
Thanks very much, William, for your succinct presentation. Not seeing questions at the moment, but take your points and appreciate them, and we'll have a discussion about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next delegation is Angela Keller-Herzog, Executive Director of Cafes, and there's a PowerPoint along with this as well.
Good morning, everybody. Always nice to be here. So this morning, I'm here to talk about SEPJEP as a user of this program, to share some of our lived experience with this program. Next slide, please. I think you all know cafes. So next slide, please. So in terms of overview, I will have some main points, and then I will have some suggestions for improvements for greater effectiveness of this program and how to implement it adroitly. Next slide, please. So overall, cafes definitely supports the addition of dedicated grant program stream for waste reduction, which we agree is something that the community can really contribute to very well. We think that there is an opportunity for alignment in the SEPJEP program and to iron out some wrinkles that currently limit the effectiveness. So we support what you're trying to do, but we think it could be done a little bit better. And there's a real opportunity since the SEPJEP file is now going to council. Next slide, please. So in terms of improvements for effectiveness, what some of you may not know is that if you're a not-for-profit organization that has some capacity, meaning some staff, and you'd like to put forward a project for SEPJEP, none of the staff costs will be covered. It's ineligible. So what you really would then have to do is to pair the SEPJEP funding with some other wage subsidy funding, and to coordinate the timing of that is like a nightmare. So basically then we're asking for community donations to cover the staff capacity. So this is really a hard thing to do for the organizations with capacity. The second problem I'd like to point to pertains to small organizations, where SEPJEP requires a $5 million liability insurance for an organization to participate in the program, and the insurance costs are not an eligible expenditure. So you can apply for like $5,000 and then you can pay $1,500 for insurance, but you can't claim it. So you need to somehow fix your books. So this is, again, something that can be sorted out very easily, because other programs have encountered the same barrier and we have the solutions, like by the city. Next slide, please. In terms of, and I'm not seeing the timer. I'm always not seeing the timer. Oh, there it is. 2 minutes left. Okay. So other improvements that we would propose for the waste stream is we would propose that business planning for social enterprises should be eligible. So if somebody has a bright idea of how to deal with parts of the clothing stream or whatever, and make that into a sustainable enterprise, working that business plan out would be a really, really nice use of this money and currently ineligible. Second of all, to do these kinds of innovations and community collaborations, it takes time to line it up. So like what William said from Ecology Ottawa, permitting a 2 or multi-year project timeline would be increasing effectiveness. And the last point also is to allow some modest overhead to the project attributable administration. Next slide, please. So in terms of how to put in place these fixes, the Community Economic Development Funding Program, which is run out of the same general manager's purview as this, has eligibility for project attributable wages and salaries. So you can just use that wording. The insurance barrier, our community-led greening initiatives and gardening program figured out how to help small organizations who don't have that insurance by linking it to the CPIP program. So again, there's a known way to fix this. And then in terms of the other suggestions I've made, they're obviously also easy to implement with standard language widely available. Last slide, please. So in terms of the recommendations are, yes, please, strengthen the SEPJEP program, and cafes would recommend that you make these modest amendments to increase the effectiveness of the SEPJEP program and pilot this. And then in the program evaluation in 2027, you can see how that worked out. Thank you.
Thanks, Angela, for that presentation. Councillor Kavanaugh has a question for you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Angela, as always, and thank you, William, as well for your presentation. I think what we're all saying is this is baby steps, very much baby steps in the right direction, but we need to work on more than that. And I like some of your suggestions, particularly about the insurance for community gardens, because that seems to be a real problem for those setting it up, especially in communities that are more vulnerable. That could not pull that off. So I appreciate that. I'm not sure about the small business model because that's trickier. But obviously it helps, but I have a feeling that would be harder to manage. But we do need to look at expanding this program. 102,000 is not a lot of money for something that could save us literally millions. In terms of waste reduction. So appreciate it, but I don't know if you have any comments about that.
I would agree if we look at the relative magnitudes of how much money is being spent on what in terms of solid waste management. Most of the time we're talking about millions of dollars, right? And then when we're talking about leveraging community effort, and a lot of this behavior change in terms of how we do better sorting, diversion of organic waste, it has to come from the community participating and community awareness, right? So the chunks of incentives and funding are like in SEPJEP are usually somewhere between $2,000 and $10,000. So very several orders of magnitude smaller. So in terms of setting us up for success, where we could have larger community efforts being piloted, being tried out, this doesn't really get there. So when you say these are baby steps, unfortunately, yes. I mean, I still am welcoming the baby steps, but I think that there is a huge potential impact that's left on the table untouched. So I would very much agree with you, Councillor. Yes.
Thank you very much, Angela.
Thank you, Councillor Curry.
Yeah, thanks, Angela. I think we all agree this is a very small amount of money. I think that there could be so much more done. Without directing this right at you, but organizations like yours, where does the salary funding come from normally?
Okay, so we have a variety of sources. We get grants. So Cafes receives generous support from the Ottawa Community Foundation, also from OCAF, the Ottawa Climate Action Fund. We're also receiving money through a larger partner from Industry Canada, I said. And so it's that grant piece. Then we have membership fees, because we are a membership-based and member-driven organization, and there are fees to be an individual or organizational member. And then there are donations, which I'm happy to say have increased significantly over the past few years, but it is still one of my main headaches that sometimes keeps me up at night, because to meet payroll from individual donations of $25, $30, $50, that is really hard. So the fact that the SEPJEP grant mechanism doesn't allow you to pay for project staffing and effort and capacity for a particular project is really tying our hands. And the thing is that there's other grant programs by the City of Ottawa that don't do this. So the fix is really easy. It's like let's do what the program over there does and make project staff and wage costs eligible. And that would help enormously in terms of like allowing this program to punch a little bit.
You know, I honestly, I hear you. And I remember I was on the Ottawa Community Foundation Grants Committee and we would look at the costs of salaries. And I think this committee, I can't speak for everybody, but believes that when there is an organized group, often things get done better, faster, in a more coordinated way, right? I'm not disagreeing with you at all. I'm wondering, so first of all, do you know offhand what other programs we have that do include salaries at the city?
Well, the one that I fished out off the website, right, is the Community Economic Development Funding Program, right, which is also directed at not-for-profits, right, and is supposed to do some magic in terms of economic development stuff. Private firms, private sector is not eligible. But under that grant program, project attributable wages and salaries are.
So that's one of them. So we're going to discuss this when we get to questions for staff for sure. But have you ever thought about suggesting or putting together something that would show economies of scale, that if it were cafes that did this and you were given this amount of money, that the economies of scale, as opposed to a smaller group that just has a couple of volunteers?
No, it would be difficult for me to do that because cafes is a network, right? So we have hundreds of individual members and we have well over 50 like organizational members. Many of them are precisely these small community-based organizations, and it's part of our mandate to help them and support their local initiatives. So for us to come along and say, oh, we're like a bigger bear than you guys are and we should receive all the funding, like that wouldn't mesh very well with our network of support mentality that kind of is part of how cafes operates.
Okay, well, I would suggest though, you still do keep thinking about that as a concept.
Okay.
But anyway, we'll talk about this when we get to staff questions. Thanks, Angela.
Thanks very much, Councillor Curry. And just, I have a quick question too. Funding for waste reduction community projects was a big ask in the scoping for the solid waste master plan. I remember it. It was something that had come up often. And so I want to commend staff for hearing that suggestion and bringing it forward. William had mentioned this, but maybe you know too, there was a request from community groups of, was it $1.5 million over a period of time? Do you know what that was? What the actual ask was at the time? This is 2024. Over 3 years, 1.5 million.
Over 3 years, sir.
Okay. This is good to know. Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Yeah. I should also, there is another wrinkle that the lived experience of cafes includes. So 2-3 years ago, we put in a SEPJEP proposal for helping from a community base to divert organic waste, particularly in multi-unit residential buildings, right? Which from a climate perspective, diverting the organic waste from landfill is like super important. So then the proposal was rejected because it said, oh, it duplicates what the city is doing already. So I think we should also be kind of careful with that, right? Because if the city, like environmental assistance that are going to various buildings is making so much difference, surely nobody is saying that they're fixing the whole problem. So if there can be complementarity of some of the city efforts with some of the community efforts, that is the way it should be. And to reject proposals for saying like, well, we're doing this already is like, I think something that should be ideally not done that way.
Okay. I can appreciate that point. Thank you very much. This has been a helpful presentation. And I have a direction I'll read in at the end of the delegations related to what you've been speaking about here today too. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Council.
Our next delegation is James Scott McKillop with a PowerPoint.
Good morning. My presentation is regarding biodigital convergence tech and waste management in the Ottawa Smart City. Next slide, please. Meet Jean-Francois Dion, geospatial strategist for the City of Ottawa, working on Ottawa's digital twin. Next slide. Next, Randall Roger, program manager, geospatial analytics in Ottawa's digital twin. Next slide. VGIS of Ottawa is positioning itself as a national leader in geospatial digital twins. Jean-Francois Dion claims Ottawa already has a digital twin available for everyone. His inspectors are collecting new data daily. Next slide, please. twin, Ottawa's digital twin. Next slide. Digital twin goals to advance using zoning bylaw to advance digital twins, just like to point out, predicting climate change. Next slide, please. Real-time mapping. Next slide. Sharon Lee, Geospatial Services Team, City of Ottawa, working on digital twins. Next slide. Ottawa's Geoscience Information Platform gathers all kinds of geospatial data. Next slide. ArcGIS is a comprehensive geospatial platform, the leading GIS technology built by Esri. ArcGIS integrates and connects all kinds of geospatial data, analyzing, managing, and mapping. Next slide. Next slide. Geo Ottawa is an interactive map tool that allows you to get information and answers about different locations in Ottawa using cloud computing, LiDAR, machine learning, AI, and IoT. Next slide. Francois Collier, we're now on IoT systems. Our key enablers are smart everything everywhere. Next slide. This includes smart society, smart payment, smart healthcare, smart building, smart energy, and more. Next slide. Digital twin in brief. Digital twin is a digital representation of a real world entity or system, a software model that mirrors a physical object, process, person, etc., based on massive real-time, real-world data measurements across an array of dimensions. Mirroring is done through synchronization using data streams generated by sensors. Digital twin is an enabler of smart everything everywhere. Next slide. Have you met your human digital twin? Next slide. Meet Robert Delatola, CIHR Public Health Chair in Environment and Climate Change, One Health at the University of Ottawa. Next slide. His research group focuses on advancing wastewater and environmental monitoring as an early warning system for pandemic preparedness as an anonymous, non-invasive tool to advance health equity. Next slide. Environmental monitoring uses smart sensors, smart cities, digital water monitoring networks, and cloud telemetry and the IoT for good health and well-being. Next slide. Biosensors are not just used for environmental monitoring, but also soil quality, disease detection, water monitoring, food quality monitoring, and more, utilizing 2D, 3D, and 4D printed microfluidics. Next slide. Ottawa Solid Waste Master Plan. Next slide. Waste plan actions include behavior change, food waste reduction using community-based actions. Next slide. And next slide. Anaerobic digestion biologically converts organic waste into biogas under anaerobic conditions without oxygen. AD is used in agriculture, industrial applications. Next slide. RFID chips are used for tracking waste performance, determining charges for waste management. Next slide. Pyrolysis involves heating a solid waste in oxygen-free environment to produce a combustible gases or liquid product. Think microfluidics and carbon char residue. Next slide. Some important stuff on hydrolysis. Next slide. Common materials recovery facilities equipment currently includes optical sensors, disc screens, ballistic separators, robotics, AI, and more. Next slide. This is from a document titled NRC Capabilities in Food. Key technologies include tech for waste reduction using advanced materials, green, not, bio-based, and nano-automation robotics, crop biotech, hooking up to artificial intelligence and the IoT for big data analytics. These novel food production platforms are allegedly done for our safety. Next slide. Valuable added products from waste include plant genetics, water and land agriculture inputs using IT devices, smart packaging, and functional ingredients. Next slide. Sustainable agriculture tech. Some of the high valued food products and processing, I'd like to point out value added products from waste, includes anaerobic digestion, microbial production, polysaccharide nano fermentation, and bioconversion facilities. Next slide.
I'll just ask you to finish up.
Smart. Go to slide 35, please. Slide 35. International standards from IEC surrounding biodigital convergence that Ottawa is currently following. Next slide. But back one slide. Sorry, I guess the slides are mixed up. If we could go to the final slide. Biodigital convergence, I guess the slides are mixed up here, but biodigital convergence is known as the Nano Bio Info Cogno experiment. Nano for nanotech, nanoscience, bio for biotech, genetic engineering, info for information tech and telecommunications, Cogno for cognitive neuroscience, including cognitive neuroscience. It's a 20-year-old concept. Thank you for having me once again. Always love to be here.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Our next delegation is Mireille Trent with Ocean.
Hi, so I'm here today speaking on behalf of OCN, the Ottawa South Eco Action Network. We're a group of environmental activists in Ottawa South taking action on reducing waste, protecting green spaces, pollinator and wildlife, combating climate change, and encouraging government to pass more sustainable legislation, programs, and activities by thinking globally and acting locally. OCN does many large-scale waste diversion and environmental projects, including the Lonely Mitten Project, the Pumpkins for the Planet Project. We helped with the very successful swap and drop program, among other things. We also grow and give away over 1,000 native plants every year in Ottawa South and are responsible for creating and maintaining many community habitat gardens in southern Ottawa, including the creation of many butterfly ways. We are very supportive of a waste diversion stream as part of SEPGEP, which is an excellent program where we'd like to see some further improvements in the program in itself and also to accommodate the new stream. We would like to see SEPGEP cover operational expenses, which are key to making long-term progress and impact. While volunteers can do an incredible amount of work, trying to coordinate volunteers while being a volunteer can lead to burnout. Relying solely on volunteers can also restrict how large and elaborate a project can be. Rent and storage should also be an eligible expense for the waste diversion stream because we've been involved in waste diversion projects for many years, again, including the swap and drop program, the Lonely Mitten program, Pumpkins for the Planet, and so on. And in some cases, we have our volunteers basically filling up their houses with mittens or other things, and we really need to have somewhere to put this stuff. We agree that the 2-year time that the waste diversion program should have a 2-year time frame. A large proportion of the time for a waste diversion project is getting residents to learn about it. And so providing only 1-year time frame is insufficient to capture the true impacts that can be achieved. And we agree with cafes that improving a business plan development should be something that can be an eligible expense for both streams. We need innovative solutions to our environmental and waste problems. And we also agree that Unity program insurance should be made available to groups that need it, as the city does for the community gardens and greening initiatives. The city has set climate, environment, and solid waste goals. City residents, including our volunteers, are offering thousands of hours to reach these targets. The city should be asking how we can more fully support and enable these projects so their impact can be even larger, because these grants really benefit the city. This isn't something like a scholarship where there's only one winner and that person is the recipient. The city is getting significant benefit from these grants, and they should be viewing them as such. Another area that we think should be an eligible expense is refreshments or catering. Because we are a volunteer-led and run group, it is difficult sometimes to motivate volunteers and keep them on board. And we'd like to be able to celebrate them just as you have celebrated your staff that does a great job, by having parties and other things like the city does have for some of its other programs, and to be able to give people coffee and cookies or something like that is great. What's happening now is other volunteers, such as myself, are just supplying the coffee and the cookies to celebrate the other volunteers. But it would be nice to have those costs covered by the program itself. So thank you so much for this opportunity. OCN is very much in support of what cafes and Ecology Ottawa put forward. We want to see them be able to cover some of their wages and operational and administrative expenses as well, because we see what they do supporting what we do. We don't feel ourselves being in competition with them. And if there's some way of expanding the program and giving it more funding, I think that would be excellent. I don't think, you need to rob Peter to pay Paul. So yeah, anyway, maybe just add more money, because I think you're really leveraging volunteers and existing talent in the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Vice Chair Carr has a question for you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Mary. Thanks for being here. Always appreciate the work that you guys do. I know you're mostly volunteer based, but do you have any other sources for funding as you had your events? And I know you mentioned some of them. I know you've also worked on with the Tool Library, for example, on a repair cafe. I think you got a grant for that. But what other sources of funding have you had for things like refreshments, that sort of thing?
So we did, we have got some funds from Awesome Ottawa. So this year last year, or actually I think it was the year before, the Pumpkins for the Planet initiative was recognized by Awesome Ottawa as being a really great initiative. And so we did get some funding, which we were able to use to have, basically to get refreshments for our event. And then we also, for the swap and drop as well, we got some funding from Awesome Ottawa. I think what we also do is a lot of our volunteers are also part of their community associations. Sometimes we work with the community association. Sometimes we're able to get funding from them, or yeah. So those are a couple of different sources of funding that we can get, but it is. We don't do a whole lot of fundraising. So mostly what we get, the funds that we do get are through grants, and generally a lot of the refreshments and everything that we are providing is the volunteers themselves that are providing that in addition to their time. They're also providing, coffee and treats and things to the other volunteers. So a lot of it is just us, in addition to volunteering our time, also volunteering, picking up some coffee, making it, bringing it, baking cookies, whatever. So yeah, and that puts a lot of stress on the volunteers. And the other piece to think about as well is that we're serving a lot of equity deserving communities. And I feel like volunteering can be somewhat of a privilege. And so it's hard to ask somebody to work for free for 4 or 5 hours and not feed them. And I know there, you know, like I also volunteer for Blues Fest, and you know, there snacks are provided, you get meal vouchers, that type of thing. So it makes that type of volunteering more accessible to more people across the city.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, I know Blues Fest is on a little bit of a different scale than the work you guys are doing, but appreciate that. Yeah, I know your area well, Ottawa South, and appreciate those equity issues. Are you able to work with community associations on leveraging their insurance? Or do you guys have your own insurance?
Well, we are currently covered. We do actually have insurance because we're covered under the other the community the other program. So we have coverage under that program, and we are able to, and there is also so we just happen to have it, but other groups may not have it. So in order to have that coverage, we do have it, but we have it through the other program. I get sorry, the programs, the names of them are almost identical, so I get confused. But it's the community-led greening initiatives or whatever. Yeah, that one. We have coverage. OCN actually does have coverage through that other program, but only as long as we continue to be part of the other program can we get insurance coverage.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Or we can or we can partner with an association to get coverage. But in some cases, in some cases there might not be that partner.
Yeah, no, great. I'm also happy to sit down with you guys and have those discussions. But I think Councillor Menard has a direction he wants to read in about looking at the next steps of SEPJEP and what can be done. But thank you very much for your delegation today.
Thank you.
Thank you for that delegation. That was our last delegation. I do want to thank staff for the work to date and for adding this amount of funding. It's not just the 102, it's adding on to the previous funding that was already there. It is important that the program be expanded. And I think there's been some good suggestions that we've heard around particularly in the cafe's presentation, very succinct suggestions, some of the financing that Ecology Ottawa has spoken to. So I do want to read a direction in, and this is prefaced on those presentations that they gave, and the directions that staff, as part of the next scheduled program review of the Community Environmental Projects Grants Program in 2027. Number one, assess the feasibility and implications of expanding eligible expenses to include staff time and operational costs incurred by community organizations to plan and implement projects receiving grant funding. And two, to identify options to reduce administrative burden associated with the post-project reporting requirements while ensuring compliance with the requirements of the city's grants and contributions policy and procedures. I understand you're going to be consulting as well in 2027, so people will be able to come and give feedback.
Yes, thank you, Chair, for the question. Yes, of course, we will develop a robust public consultation process as part of that fulsome review of the program.
Okay. And just other committee members may have questions at this point too, but how did you come up with the 102,000 versus say where Ecology Ottawa had recommended or people had signed a petition asking for a little like around 500,000 a year? Where did the 102 come from?
Thank you for the question, Chair. I'm going to direct that one over to my colleagues at Solid Waste Services.
Thank you for the question, Chair. Yeah, we know that demand for waste reduction funding is high. And so in the average year request for SEPJEP funding, they are typically more than double the available funds. And waste-related projects have represented about 30% of that amount. So we decided not only to meet the existing demand, but to expand it, to make it even bigger, so to inspire innovation and ignite a spark and boost new initiatives. So this was the reasoning behind that amount. And I should also say that it reflects with what other municipalities do, because we did a municipal scan last year. And so same size municipalities, about 1 million, for example, York Region, Peel Region, and Edmonton, they all allocate about $100,000 per year to waste reduction funding. So we're in good company.
Okay. And in your review of the program in 2027, I assume that review will also include looking at the financial piece, and you'll take feedback from the community groups that have spoken here about the total amount.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think the review in 2027 is the perfect opportunity to look at the financial piece associated with this program and the demand that we've had in the past.
Perfect. Yeah, it's nice to see that it has been oversubscribed to date, but obviously a new addition here. I'm going to turn to committee members. Sorry, got off there after that direction. Councillor Curry.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay. So when the delegation was talking about the complementarity of some of our bigger groups like cafes, when an application comes in, would you ever assess it on that and say, this is really complementing what we're doing, not duplicating, but complementing, and then therefore that have a higher ranking?
Yes, thanks for the question, and through the chair. We do, yeah, so just to set the stage, that we do clearly say that we can't offer funding that duplicates existing programs at the City of Ottawa. So as a example of that, like if we get an application for someone who wants to plant trees in a schoolyard, it's an easy example because we do have a program existing through Forestry Services devoted to that. So in that case, we would refer them. In other cases, there could be projects that are more complementary, and we look at it I would say, on a case-by-case basis. SEPJEP has a wide range of projects that can apply, and so it does have to be done case by case at times.
Okay. And so when you do get those applications, is it actually some of you who sit there and read through them and make the decisions?
Yes, thanks. We have a review committee that we make up of different colleagues from across departments. And because we do get a wide range of project types, we would reach out to colleagues who have the subject matter expertise in the other departments as well to get their input on the applications.
Okay. Good to know. So if you saw an application come in and it did say that they had salaries, would you just say then, therefore we're rejecting it? Or could you say, we'll pay for this part, but salaries, we could maybe even try to help you find funding somewhere else, or say we will just partially fund?
Yeah, and that's a great question. So we definitely would look at the portions of the project that are eligible under SEPJEP's current framework, and if we can offer funding for that, and in many cases we have. I would just like to point out as well that the way the program is currently structured, we require that a minimum of 33% of the project's expenses be covered either through other funding sources or through in-kind contributions from the organization. So typically things like, the staffing costs from an organization, they could allocate those under their in-kind percentage of the project costs, and it could be sort of budgeted in that manner.
Okay. Just on the insurance question, did you want to comment on the insurance question? Because if you see a project come in, you'd have to assume or ask directly, do they have insurance? But we already know that our community associations fall under our community insurance program. So what happens if you get a group that says, we don't have insurance, but yet we may be able to help them? Would you then try to figure out how they could partner with an organization that does, or what happens in that situation?
Mm-hmm. So the way that the program is currently is structured, we have a contribution agreement that I work with legal services to create. And so there are standard terms and conditions under there that would apply to other grant programs as well. One of them is that the organization, the recipient, needs to demonstrate proof of commercial general liability insurance in the amount of $5 million, and they need to provide a certificate of insurance that demonstrates that they can meet that requirement. So this is a small grant program. It's typically small budget amounts. So we understand that not all community groups can meet that requirement. And as was being discussed earlier by Councillor Carr with the delegation, we are sometimes able to suggest that groups partner with a community association or another not-for-profit organization that can meet that requirement. So if that's the case, that organization that meets our insurance requirements would be the recipient. We would fund them, and they would partner with a smaller organization to achieve the project.
Very similar to Ottawa Community Foundation as well, because as they're pre-applying, there's a sort of a conversation that takes place. And my last question is, so if you have that conversation or you see that, you know how I was saying to the delegation, maybe you could make the argument that there are economies of scale here. Do you actually apply that lens and say, actually, if this group works with this group, there's a huge economy of scale? Or what the city's doing right now, we are missing this component. If we could get a group to do this part of it, there would be a considerable economy of scale here. Do you ever do that proactively?
So in the context of SEPJEP, we're really just looking at the applications that come in that are requesting funding on an annual basis, and it's case by case. We look at the merits of each application as they follow the criteria that we have established currently. And so we're not really looking elsewhere to try to partner up groups with each other at this point in time.
I can see how that would be challenging for you to do, but I will tell you that Ottawa Community Foundation, that was a game changer when they would actually connect people together and say, you're doing the same thing as this group and you guys work together, because they could see it all coming in, right? And they knew all the groups and they were able to do that. So I'll leave that with you, but thank you. I'll be supporting this, obviously.
Yeah, great suggestion, Councillor. Thank you. Councillor Kavanaugh.
Yeah, thank you. As I mentioned earlier, I think this is just baby steps, and I think that we have a lot more to do. But I want to, before I forget, say thank you, because we're going to have a repair cafe coming up at Roncolbus this weekend, and I hope it's well attended. I expect it will be. That kind of initiative is very useful. Appreciate it, because that was something that I've been asked to organize for the community. So I appreciate the city doing it, because it is needed. But the trick is getting the message out to vulnerable communities, because I went out to Britannia Woods to tell them. They didn't know about it. It's talking it up and making things regular. If it's just once in a blue moon that these things happen, if there was some sort of regularity, that would help a lot. That this is coming up, they can plan around it, like CD Saturday comes up once a year or whatever. These things people will remember and will attend, so that might be helpful. But I appreciate support for this and for the Ottawa Tool Library, which is also a great partner in my ward, and Outdoor Gear Library, which is also very, very useful in terms of just people, who want to try things out. And people donate old equipment. So it's another circular economy. I just want to know if you do any kind of analysis afterwards of programs to see how effective they were, the attendance, how, if they got the result you wanted.
Yes, and thanks for that question and for those comments. And so through the chair, as part of the contribution agreement that applicants or that recipients must adhere to, we have a project evaluation reporting process that follows the completion of their project. So it's a pretty short 2-page form where the recipient just outlines how they met the goals and objectives of their project, some of the measures of success that they, achieved. We also ask for, depending on the nature of the project, but we generally ask them to submit a few photos as well to show us before, during, and after their project. But of course, it depends. If it was a repair cafe, it might only be during, but yeah.
I appreciate that. When I look at the kind of groups that want to participate, want to do things in the community, they tend to be more established, organized groups, but they don't necessarily represent vulnerable communities. And I'm wondering if you could work with Ottawa Community Housing, for example, to have a direct contact with communities that could really benefit from some of these swap sales and that kind of stuff, the repair cafe, because this is kind of like, you'll know this, Kathy, with schools, some schools are really organized and they have parent involvement and you get great stuff happening, and other schools don't have it because they just don't have parent involvement. So it's kind of the same with community associations too. And so the ones that probably need it most just don't have the capacity to have volunteers, period. And so we have to do more outreach to them. And that's where I think we may need more funding to reach out. And there are partners out there that can reach out through our community health centers, for example, like at Bayshore. But I suggest that because that would be very helpful to reach those who could really make use of these things.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I just want to take the opportunity to thank the councillor for those comments. So certainly something that we will take away as an opportunity when we're promoting the SEPJEP program, about those opportunities to make sure we're reaching perhaps beyond where we typically reach. And I'll see if there's anything my colleagues from Solid Waste Services would like to add about some of the broader communications related to some of their efforts. And if nothing to add, that's okay.
Oh, absolutely. So as soon as council has approved, or pending committee and council approval, as soon as we're ready to launch, the website will be updated, obviously, and we're also going to put some content on the waste reduction page. And then we're going to send out an email to a lot of groups, and Tara has a list, and we added specific groups to that list that might be interested in this waste reduction stream. And then we'll also, there will also be a feature story and social media. There will be our e-newsletter, and we will certainly also directly reach out to partners and stakeholders, asking them to amplify the message and to disseminate the information through their own circles.
Thank you. It serves a double purpose. It's waste reduction, but it's also money saving for a lot of people. I grew up with a culture of going to secondhand stores, and it's fun. But take the stigma away. But it's really it's broadening it out there and helping those who could benefit the most. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor. Great suggestions as well. Vice Chair Carr.
Thanks. I just wanted to tack on just a comment on Councillor Kavanaugh's comments, which I agree with. But it was really interesting to see the swap and drop that occurred last year in my community, and that was held at Jim Durrell Recreation Center. I always mispronounce his name. It was interesting because the folks that dropped things off were not the folks, the same population that picked things up. And it was a really good example of being in an area where you had both populations. And I think if we have continue events like that, where we offer the SEPJEP program to community groups that are interested in waste diversion, that we will be able to serve those populations. So I just wanted to add that comment because it was something that was apparent at that fantastic event last year. And I think that's the only one we've had so far, but hopefully this grant will encourage more people to have those events and communicate with those areas that could benefit from it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor King.
Thank you, Chair. And I just wanted to continue the pile on here in terms of comments. I would say that the Community Environmental Projects Grant Program is a tremendous one, an excellent one, and really pleased that we're seeing its expansion. And in terms of piling on, I agree in terms of looking at specific neighborhoods, especially ones with lower income residents and many marginalized people, that these are excellent programs to be applied in those areas. I remember a few years ago attending a repair cafe at the Overbrook Community Center and seeing the real impact that was made on people's lives in terms of being able to fix broken items and ensuring that they don't end up back in the landfill, along with composting workshops, food waste education, and reuse events. I've seen great benefits to these programs. I'm pleased that the chair has introduced a direction to explore other supports for organizations that provide these programs. And I'm pleased that we are really expanding the program and building upon its institutional strength. So just wanted to say thank you to staff and thank you to the community partners who make these programs happen. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor King. And yeah, just to continue with those comments, the community has a huge role to play in climate action. I personally want to see more of this. This is exactly the type of thing you leverage community resources, volunteers, and others who want to contribute. It builds community at the same time while reducing some costs that the municipality has as well. You see this on our tree work too. We continue to mention that. So thank you for doing this, and I hope to see it expanded both financially as well as other initiatives into the future with the program. So with that, the report recommendation is that the Environment and Climate Change Committee recommend Council approve a dedicated funding stream for waste avoidance, reduction, and reuse initiatives within the Community Environmental Projects Grant Program effective for the 2026 application period as outlined in this report. Is that carried?
Carried.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. There are no in-camera items today. There is an IPD on the annual drinking water source protection status update from 2025. I'm just seeing if any committee members want that held or any questions about that. No? Okay. Okay. Thank you very much to staff. Notices of motion for consideration of subsequent meetings. So Councillor Lowe, I believe you have tentative 2 notices of motion you wanted to put forward today.
Yes. I guess I'll get them up on the screen and I'll read them in, please. Thank you. Whereas the tree protection bylaw came into effect on January 1st, 2021, whereas it is critical that the City of Ottawa assist private property owners in protecting their homes from property damage caused by trees on municipal property. Therefore, be it resolved that the tree protection bylaw be amended to allow any property owner to remove branches, trim, or alter any tree, or to remove a tree, trunk, or roots of any tree on their private property. And be further resolved that the general manager shall approve the removal of municipal property, from municipal property by the city of any tree at its cost upon the request of any adjacent property owner, where an arborist or engineer states in a letter that the tree is causing or has the potential to cause damage to private property. Thank you.
Okay, so that would be considered at the next meeting. And your second notice of motion?
Thank you, Chair. When it is up, there we go. Whereas the tree protection bylaw came into effect January 1st, 2021, whereas section 17(4) provides that, quote, the general manager may approve the removal from municipal property by the city of a tree that is causing or likely to cause in the future serious damage to private property where other mitigation measures are unlikely to prevent future damage. Whereas it is critical that the City of Ottawa assist private property owners in protecting their homes from property damage caused by trees on municipal property. And whereas 6 properties throughout the Gospel Oak/Fairlop neighborhood, potentially, that's in Barhaven East, neighborhood potentially have issues with adjacent trees on municipal property. And whereas 3 properties throughout that neighborhood have geotechnical reports proving serious property damage caused by adjacent trees on municipal property. And whereas these reports are evident of a larger problem within this neighborhood, and therefore be resolved that the general manager approve the removal from municipal property by the city at the city's expense of any municipal tree in the neighborhood of Gospel Oak Fairlop at the request of any adjacent property owner received between now and December 31st, 2026. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. That'll be considered at the next meeting as well. Inquiries, Councillor Curry.
Thank you. Ground disturbance and pre-construction activities are scheduled to commence today on lands comprising approximately 175 acres of documented mercury-impacted soil and water at the Canada Lakes Golf Course. My previous inquiry addressed environmental risk assessment, independence, and precaution. This inquiry is distinct and focuses specifically on municipal liability exposure arising from these activities. So number 1, has the city obtained a formal legal or risk management assessment regarding potential municipal liability exposure if mercury contamination were to migrate during pre-construction or soil disturbance activities that are municipally permitted, conditioned, or otherwise authorized? Number 2, while the Ontario Land Tribunal conditions permit the proponent to undertake certain testing activities, has the city conducted a separate municipal liability analysis, or is the city's position that compliance with OLT imposed conditions fully insulates the municipality from liability arising from contaminated soil disturbance? Number 3, if a municipal liability assessment has been undertaken, A, which branch, legal services, risk management, conducted it? B, has that assessment been documented? Number 4, what environmental impairment insurance coverage, financial securities, or indemnification mechanisms are currently in place to protect the city and taxpayers if contamination migrates or remediation costs escalate during this phase of work? Number 5, has the city assessed whether reliance on technical assurances provided by proponent retained consultants in the context of known contamination could increase municipal liability exposure if those assurances later prove incomplete or incorrect? Number 6, given that mercury contamination across the site has been documented through prior proceedings, does the city acknowledge that it has formal notice of potential environmental risk? And if so, how has that notice been incorporated into the city's liability analysis for permitting pre-construction activities? And finally, what documented protocol exists to immediately suspend work if monitoring or site conditions indicate contaminant migration or increased risk? And who has the authority to activate that suspension, notwithstanding OLT conditions permitting testing? Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that inquiry. Other business, there is a motion from Councillor King that would be best out with now, that I understand has a time consideration. So Councillor King, I'll just read in the first part before the rest of it is in, that the rules of procedure be waived to consider the matter below at the February 17th meeting of Environment and Climate Change Committee due to the application deadline. So is that carried? All this onto the agenda? Okay, thank you. Councillor King?
Thank you so much, Chair. Whereas Bird Friendly Ottawa is a volunteer-based nonprofit organization whose mission is to advance bird-friendly actions in Ottawa to create safer environments for birds. Whereas Bird Friendly Ottawa advances this mission by addressing and mitigating key threats to birds, protecting and restoring natural habitat, strengthening climate resilience, and conducting community outreach and education, guided by principles of shared responsibility, inclusiveness, and accessible decision-making, proactive and innovative action, and strong partnerships. Whereas Bird Friendly Ottawa engages residents across the city to support personal and collective action that balances nature, wildlife, and people, and has hosted more than 100 public events since 2022, whereas Ottawa lies on the Atlantic Flyway, one of North America's major migratory bird routes. Nearly half of Canada's bird species are found in the Ottawa region, and the Ottawa River is designated an important bird and biodiversity area, whereas bird-friendly city certification is a national designation administered by Nature Canada that formally recognizes municipal leadership in bird conservation, biodiversity protection, climate resilience, and community engagement, with certification valid for 3 years. Whereas there are 36 Canadian municipalities currently certified, and the next application intake closes on February 23rd, 2026, whereas Ottawa meets the criteria for entry-level certification and scores at entry or intermediate level across all program categories based on Bird Friendly Ottawa's assessment, whereas Bird Friendly Ottawa has requested a letter of support from the City of Ottawa to accompany its application to Nature Canada, and an application for entry-level certification is currently under review by City Natural Systems staff for submission, whereas entry-level bird-friendly city certification primarily recognizes existing municipal work and community partnerships, does not require new funding, new programs, or policy changes during the certification period, and does not create any obligation to pursue higher levels of certification. Therefore, be it resolved that the committee recommend Council endorse Bird-Friendly Ottawa's application to Nature Canada to have the City of Ottawa recognized as a certified bird-friendly city. Therefore, be it further resolved that the committee recommend Council authorize the Chair of the Environment and Climate Change Committee to provide a letter of support on behalf of Council to accompany the application. And I would like to also thank Councillor Kavanaugh for work on this file. I know 2 years ago we helped organize a lunch and learn here for councillors about the work that has been undertaken by Bird Friendly Ottawa on this certification.
Thank you very much, Councillor King. I'll see if there's questions. Councillor Lowe.
Thanks very much, Chair. Nice. I have a lot of residents who are passionate about this stuff, passionate about the bird-friendly stuff as well. So it is, you know, I've enjoyed seeing some of the initiatives that the city has taken come forward. My question is how come it's a third party that's applying on the city's behalf, and not something that the city seeks on its own? I probably don't have a full understanding of that program, but I'm curious about that.
Yeah, so I know staff are available. We also have Louisa Coates from Bird Friendly Ottawa, I believe, online too, and she might be best to answer that question. Just to move over to a participant, if that's okay. If staff have anything to add, you feel free to add.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I think we recognize this was not something necessarily led by staff, but the Bird Friendly Ottawa team, who has certainly been strong advocates within the community for a number of different policies to advance bird friendly initiatives, have certainly been working with the natural systems team. This is something common, I think, you see across other municipalities as well. It's partner organizations working alongside the municipality to put forward an application.
Okay, thank you very much. And Louisa Coates, did you want to add anything to that staff answer? You're on mute at the moment. Maybe we have to try to unmute her.
Oh boy. Yeah, can you hear me okay?
We can. You're a little muffled, but
Okay, I'm sorry about that. I was just connecting. Ottawa would join 36 other cities across Canada, which are designated as bird friendly. So it's a program that recognizes where we are already. And it is community led, Councillor Lowe. So it was the community that approached the city just to say, this is what we actually have in Ottawa. We have an important birding area, which is the Ottawa River. It's a major migratory route. We have over 670 bird species in Ottawa, both local and migratory. We would join Gatineau, which has just been designated. We join Cornwall. We would join Kingston, which has just been designated. We join Peterborough, Guelph, London, Regina, Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver, and many other smaller municipalities across the country, as well as in the east. We'd join Hudson, Quebec, Dorval, Montreal's in progress. So we would join many other cities. There's a total of 36 across the country now. So it's really giving recognition to what already exists, both city programs and green space and waterways, and then community-driven initiatives such as native plant gardens that exist, bird-friendly monitoring through the Ontario Breeding Bird Atlas, and citizen science, bird monitoring, and then just interest in birds. There are millions of people now who do bird watching. It has actually just soared, especially since COVID. So especially a lot of young people are getting very interested and engaged. So it's a real way as well to sort of tell people where we are, that we have a lot here already, and just giving it a name. Giving it the title of bird friendly.
I'll say thank you for that. I think Councillor Lowe's question more really on process around it. Councillor Lowe, did you have other questions or line of inquiry?
No, staff provided that context, but the information, the extra information, Louisa, is appreciated. And I guess seeks clarification that this very much recognizes what's already been done. I know the wording's in the motion, but I want to be clear about this, that it's just like a recognition of what we already have done. It doesn't tie us to anything in the future, eh?
That's right.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Hill.
Thank you very much, Chair. I would just like to put a fine point, I think, on some of those comments that Councillor Lowe was bringing up. But for me, I just want to understand that going forward with this, is there any way that this could be perceived by staff as moving forward on policies that would undermine our housing policies, our current zoning bylaw policy we just planned, our Housing Innovation Task Force plan? I just want to make sure that this is complementary and that this is not going to operate at cross purposes to those policies that we just moved forward on.
Yeah, I'll go to Nicole Hoover-Benez.
Absolutely. Through you, Mr. Chair. So Councillor, thank you for the question. I would see certainly as complimentary, but one thing I will note for members of committee, while as Councillor King had noted through the motion, and our colleagues with Bird Friendly Ottawa noted that in order to meet a certain threshold, nothing new is necessarily required, but there is a triannual recertification process. And as part of that process, there is a requirement to demonstrate year-over-year progress. So certainly the city does have a strong foundation already aligned with many bird-friendly city criteria. And some of those elements, such as having a climate resiliency strategy and plans to grow tree canopy, but we also have others that are not currently within approved priorities or resource plans, such as the introduction of cat roaming bylaws. So I would just want to acknowledge that there is that requirement to demonstrate progress as part of those recertification in future years. And also note too, while not extensive, there is some requirements for staff time to help support as part of the application process, but also as part of future recertification processes.
Okay, thank you. And is progress something for the city of Ottawa that could be measured in a geographically specific context? Ottawa is a large city. It's not the same geographic dimensions as Toronto, for example, and it doesn't have the same urban footprint as Toronto. I mean, there are many rural areas with lots of bird enclaves, which is vastly different from, downtown Ottawa, where you have more need for high-rise type structures, which would obviously conflict with bird habitat scenarios. So as we look at what measures progress, is it fair to say that we could measure progress in perhaps a bit of a scaled manner so that, we can leverage our large rural agricultural aspects of our city while at the same time not undermining some of the development requirements we have in the actual urban city?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So kind of based on staff's preliminary assessment of some of those different categories, I would say absolutely. The intent here is not to conflict. It is to complement any other city priorities. And there are a number of different categories as part of the certification, recertification, in order to be able to achieve higher levels that are kind of that take into consideration just what you're mentioning. So that allowance for a number of different policies, anything from building design, light pollution reduction, waste, transportation, habitat perspective or protection as well. So certainly looking at those, not necessarily from a city of a whole perspective, but how we're still advancing those in areas, as you mentioned.
Okay, thank you very much for that. That gives me the clarity and the confidence that I need.
Thanks very much, Councillor Hill. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions or comments from committee members. Sorry. Councillor King, did you want to wrap up?
I do. I really want to thank my colleagues for their indulgence on this item coming without a notice of motion. I usually love to have notices of motion so that we can have a clarity in terms of our policy discussion, but we understand that there's an impending timeline here. I also really want to thank the community who's come together to really advocate for this certification. Not just Bird Friendly Ottawa, but they work alongside Safe Wings Ottawa, the Ottawa Valley Wild Bird Care Center, Ecology Ottawa, and the Ottawa Field Naturalist Club, Carleton University, the University of Ottawa, and many others, working really to ensure that we just are seeking the national recognition for the work that the city is already doing. I also wanted to address a question that sometimes arises. This certification does not require a cat roaming bylaw. This is only a consideration at the high level designation. Entry level and potentially intermediate intermediate certification can be achieved through responsible pet ownership practices that the city already promotes. And there is no long-term obligation. Certification is valid for 3 years. Renewal is optional, and a future council is not bound by this decision. I think it just is a straightforward opportunity for us to take advantage of. It costs the city practically nothing. It builds on what our community partners have already built, and it gives Ottawa the national recognition it has earned. So I would just encourage my colleagues to support this item. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much, Councillor. Is that motion carried?
Carried.
All right, thank you very much. So we are now adjourned. Our next meeting is Tuesday, the 21st of April, 2026. We'll see you then. Thank you.